Welcome back to Walsall Fan TV. Fan chat time. We've here on a Monday, which is a little bit different, given the game at Eastleigh yesterday. Good to have everybody with us. Phil, we've just heard that our reward, if the reward is the word, Gateshead away. First thoughts?
Yeah, tricky. I think similar to the first round draw, a bit of a tricky tie away against a National League side who all fancy their chances. They had a very good result, didn't they? On Saturday, they beat Wimbledon at home in the first round, which is a very good result for them. So yeah, they'll fancy their chances.
So it's a tricky one.
Yeah,
I think it's a tricky one. Having a few connection challenges tonight. We'll try and march through. Frankie, so the Eastleigh match, I think we were back to our normal, weren't we? Sort of steady first half, an impressive second half, weren't we?
If you call that a steady first half, I don't know what you call fine. Because that first half, we were lucky to get out of the trenches 1-0. In that second half, Daniel Carney's goal is like a striker's finish. There's nothing better than that goal, other than
that was an excellent finish, wasn't it?
A first goal, which was a fluke, not conceding because
dodgy first half, or just trying to get to grips with them.
You can say the grips. It could also be the nerves that we haven't played well for a good few games, and maybe that's what came together and we didn't play as well as we should have. We should have probably started. If you were thinking about it, it was our best performance. We would have started off well. We got what we needed out of the game, out of the first half. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. In the end of the game, we were 1-0 at half time, which is the best result we needed at half time. And we just kicked on at the second half. And we steamrolled them and got 2 goals, and the rest is history.
Yeah, Carno's goal was rather special, wasn't it? Are you with us, Daz, or are you struggling?
I'm here.
How is it? Jolly good. I was going to put this out before the match. They keep calling it giant killing. But bear in mind, Eastleigh probably got a bigger budget than us, spent more money than us, and they're only in a division below. Would it be a giant killing if we beat Port Vale in League One?
It's an old terminology in it that is that's still rolled out. I'm sure if you look at where Wrexham have been and how much money Wrexham have spent, they would have been giant killers in recent times, and had a budget much bigger than somebody else. I'm guessing it's old cup terminology in it.
I think for me, giant killing is a team from the League One, League Two, or National League or lower beating a team from Championship or Premier, I would say. But as you say,
cup terminology, Simon.
Yeah, if we beat Northampton in the next round, not that Northampton would be probably through, they wouldn't call that. But Gateshead away, as Phil says, they were making the news, weren't they, Phil? Gateshead Truro, the longest trip, and so Gateshead's a good old journey. But their victory over Wimbledon, and Wimbledon were at home, so that's a huge victory for them. They'll come into it positive, even though their National League campaign is not going too great. But,
no, they're 15th, aren't they, currently? So they've not had a great time of it in the league. But they'll fancy their chances. Obviously, a home draw against the league side. And I think just going back to the previous point you made, that the majority of National League sides now are full time. And as you said, so I'm sure several of them have got budgets bigger than we have. And you look at how well some of the National League teams have done since they've been promoted, and it's a tough league to get out of now. There's lots of ex-football league clubs down in the National League, and many have been down and come back up again. So a lot of people now just regard it as an extension of the Football League. Essentially, there's a lot of full-time teams in there. There's a lot of decent sides in there. So Yeah, I mean, we saw in the first half yesterday, when Frankie's right. I think we were very lucky to come out of the first half unscathed yesterday. They put us under, certainly for a 20-25 minute period, they put us under a lot of pressure and had a lot of chances. And had they scored in that period, then who knows? But we weathered the storm in the end and came out and showed our much better side to our game in the second half. But yeah, we can't afford to be going to Gateshead and being off our game, because we could very easily get punished.
Yeah. I had a couple of games where we sort of creating chances and not finishing them. Carnu, that's going to give him some confidence, that finish. And obviously Evan Weir took a lot of the plaudits before the game and during the game and after the game, didn't he? What was your thoughts there?
Me?
I thought Frankie was jumping in. You there, Frankie?
Sorry, yeah. Go for it, Frankie.
And I thought if you're on the BBC broadcast, it's quite funny because they talked about Carnu and they talked about Weir as the stars, the big players to watch. It was quite funny because they ended up scoring. And every single time you look at someone talks about Walsall, they seem to a lot of the time talk about Weir, which is understandable. Young talent who scores a bunch of goals, and he's basically a Taylor Allen archetype, which is some reason we just love signing them. So he is a brilliant player who he's probably going to leave us soon anyway. So if not next year, then the year after. So it's you love the time you get with him. And then Carnu, hopefully, one day it's got to be that a player doesn't leave in January that we want to keep. Like, it has to be one season. Right, it's this season because he's not as good as he hasn't scored. I think he scored as many goals as Lowe last season, and he hasn't looked as good as Lowe. He still looks like a brilliant striker. The fear is he gets recorded, gets loaned out to League One side. I do hope that we do keep him, because what we saw on Saturday is what I think is perfect. Where in the last few games, he hasn't been given much space. He doesn't look like a player a striker who in tight spaces ends up hitting the ball in the net. He looks like a striker, if you give him enough space, you give him somewhere to run into, he will end up in the right position for him to score. And I think him, and then you've got a centre-back who can score loads of goals, either from a free kick or from chesting the ball in the back of the net. Anything is possible.
Anything's possible. Daz, don't you think BBC played us down a little bit? I haven't seen
you
didn't see it? Well,
I was there.
Let me tell you, every time they said something good about Walsall, they sort of countered it with something bad, saying like, "Oh yeah, Daniel Carnu's doing well for you, but he'll probably get recalled in January." And then they kept reminding us of what happened last season. And it seemed like they wanted us to fail. So it was good to sort of get one back over them.
That was why they were there. They were there to see us get beat, mate. They Walsall scoring early and winning 3-0 wasn't in the script. They needed either Walsall to claw back from being behind or a really difficult last half hour, and we ripped up that script. That they were there to watch us get beat, mate, or struggle.
Well, last season, I remember last season watching Eastleigh, Albert Turner being one down to come back and beat Reading. So they'd certainly got it in the locker to sort of cause an upset. So I suppose it's a good one for the TV guys to pick. Potentially, Gateshead is another one of those, isn't he?
Yep. It's national. I mean, the amount of non-league teams in it has reduced. Obviously, it's National League against a league club. It's a tough place to go. Their own record isn't particularly good. Their own record this season is really poor. But I'm sure it'll be on the list.
It's certainly on the short list. I think the fact that Walsall were featured in the first round, maybe that might sort of count against us a little bit. But
for BBC, yeah, but there's other channels in there.
Yeah, that's it. The other guys, the Sky guys, will probably grab it. Phil, given that Gateshead is a game that arguably we could very much get through, the cup run versus focusing on the league, what's your view on that?
Well, my view is that the absolute priority this season has to be promotion. And I think, particularly bearing in mind what happened last season, I think we really need to try and seal the deal this year, as we've spoken about before. But cup run has a good cup run has many benefits to it. I think of previous seasons where we've had good cup runs, and it doesn't necessarily diminish your league form or affect your league form. In some ways, it can boost it, give you more confidence if you get results. And obviously, there's a financial aspect. If we get through to the third round, anything can happen there. Could get a Premier League team home or away. It could be a real money spinner for the club, which opens up, could potentially open up more opportunities in January to bring players in. So yeah, I'm a big one on the FA Cup. I love the FA Cup. I know people talk about how it's lost its magic and stuff, but not for me. I still get excited when the FA Cup draw comes on. I'm still old enough to remember, games like Watford, and I know I'm going back a hell of a long time there, but I've got some really good memories of watching Walsall in the FA Cup, and hopefully we'll have some more this year.
Yeah, what do you think, Daz?
The FA Cup is where a lot of the Walsall fan base comes from, particularly the older ones. I think it's lost a bit of its gleam in recent times, but it's still really important to me. But Phil's right. Getting out this league positively has to be the priority. Cup run helps, pays the bills, but getting out of the league is the important bit.
Yeah, and I think a good cup run is perhaps similar to leading the division. You get a lot of attention on you, don't you, Frankie? Where our players are going to become under more focus. Say if we were to get past Gateshead and in the third round against Leicester or somebody again, and the focus on our players is going to grow ever stronger, isn't it?
Yeah, but we have to hope that, because if we want to win the league, we want to get promoted, and any team that is vying for promotion is always going to have something on their head. And us being already top, and if we fall off that pedestal or fall anywhere, the media from last season, we still have a media kind of an idea, and it might have gone at the start, but now it's going to kind of resurface. We're now a top, and we're now in the FA Cup. It was always going to be here, depending on if we were fighting for promotion. So we've got a hope that they have learned from the pressure that the media brings from last season does not affect the players like it did last. If it did affect the players, how it affected, and does not affect the players this season, because the media is a double-bladed sword. It can either be really good and kind of sing your praises and get your name out there, and people will start thinking, "Oh, that's a team that I might want to see promoted," or that's like a good idea of a team, or it might just bring a lot of bad media attention. And let's hope we can bring in the good media instead of bringing the bad media. Establish ourselves and bringing the bad media.
It's like the X Factor game, isn't it? They like to really boost people up and then throw them down again, and that's. I guess that's just the way it is. A comment here from Lee Plant. Evan Weir is one of the only players who can pick a pass. We have spotted that, and of course he's passed for Daniel Carnu for the second goal, which pretty much sealed the game. Is that a talent that we're going to be able to hold on to, Daz?
I think he's done really well this year. Whether he's League One ready, I don't know. I don't know what League One ready is anymore these days. I think he's growing. He's, as with Taylor Allen, the statistics are gonna and the free kicks as well are gonna catch people's eyes. We have a model where we don't let players run into the final year of their contract without either being sold or an indication they're gonna sign. So I guess there's difficult conversations coming. If I was Evan Weir, I wouldn't be in a rush to leave, though. I think he's developing nicely. There's probably more to come as well. Just go back to the FA Cup. The draw has given us a sensible opportunity to progress. You know, it's not the easiest draw, but it's certainly not the hardest draw either. Get the job right in December in Gateshead, and you're one lucky draw away from January transfer window being a little bit easier. You know, get through the second round, draw somebody big in the third round, and January becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. So a nice home away to Newcastle or something like that. That's,
I've seen our record against Arsenal. It's quite good, so I'd put our name in the hat for Arsenal.
Yeah, Arsenal. They wouldn't want to play us, would they? Arsenal?
No, it'll be the most boring game of football in your life, but you can watch it.
Oh, fantastic! Just a question for Phil. A new twang, if you like. Don't write me off just yet. Jammer, what do you think of him?
I was pleased he scored yesterday, and he took his goal really nicely. It was I think we all sort of wondered whether he'd have the legs to get there once he got it on the halfway line, but it was an intelligent run across the front of the defender and then put it across the keeper. Look, I know that a lot of people were a bit surprised and a bit sceptical when Jam was given another year's contract at the end of last season. And I was probably in that camp. I was a little bit, I thought, you know, and I think if we're talking about striking options, I think that's one area of the pitch where we do need more players, regardless of whether we keep Daniel Kanu or not in January. We need to strengthen our striking options. We need more striking options than we've got at the moment. Jammer can still come on and do his little bits and pieces. I think I think when he's come on in some of the recent games, I think he's actually done okay. You know what he gives you in terms of he's as useful probably defending set pieces in his own box as he is as anything else. And I think when you're winning, you know, bringing him on is not the worst option. I'm not going to sit here and criticise a bloke who's given what he's given to the club over the years. I think he had a great first half of last season. He formed a really good partnership with Nathan Lowe. He chipped in more than his fair share of goals. I think he was running on empty at the end of last season. I think he was overplayed. He was overused, and it was quite hard to watch actually. But it certainly not a criticism of him. He's only ever done what he's been asked to do, and you know, people talk about what he gives off the pitch as well. His influence in the changing room, and you know, the information that he can pass on to some of the other strikers at the club. So I think probably having him around the dressing room has its benefits, but. I certainly think we need to strengthen our striking options in January. You know, what will be with Kanu. Hopefully, we'll be okay and we'll keep him. I think he's very good, and I think him and Presley's partnership is starting to flourish a little bit more. But yeah, I think having Jamil Matt and Albert Adoma as the only two real striking options to come off the bench, I think is a little bit problematic, and I think that could be highlighted even more if one of Kanu or Presley gets an injury. So, but yeah, really pleased for Jammer to get his goal yesterday. I've got no problem with him, but we need more options.
Yeah, I thought he looked very good when he came on. I think he was holding the ball up better than Elvis had been doing. So that tells us that don't write me off just yet. He's still there. As far as striking options, a comment there from Abandoned Hunter. Charlton have an abundance of strikers, so it's unlikely that they're going to call him back, I would think. We've got midfielders. Rico Richards was supposedly cover to play up front. I don't know who wants to take this one. I've not been very complimentary of Rico Richards. He's not looked bothered, really. Frankie's smiling, so I'll let you go. He seems pointless at this point. He doesn't.
I have not. I don't know. He's supposed to be a creative player. We need a very honestly, we need a creative player because there are points in a game. Let's take let's take when we played. Oh my! I forgot.
Shrewsbury.
When we played Charlton, for example. That game, we were crying for a goal. We were so easily able to we were about to score a goal. All we actually needed was a player who could hit the ball creatively and cause a goal. We don't seem to have one. And I thought, oh, Rico Richards, he's not going to be great, but he's at least going to be a little bit creative. What I've seen of him against either Northampton doesn't do much. He just seems to be a waste of a waste of an 11 man at the moment, and I hope he plays well, but he seems as though we've taken a Port Vale scrap just for the fun of it at this point in the moment when they've got a player that we was rumored to be the best, rumored to get as well. So we've just taken a player which we could have had, and we've got his replacement. His replacement is just one of their scraps. It's just a bit of my opinion.
Daz, do you think I completely agree with Frankie? Do you think we're judging him too harshly because he hadn't had many minutes, or do you think he's just not showing the right amount of application?
I think we need to see more from him on the pitch. It's difficult to judge somebody on what we've seen. It hasn't been great. I watched the Chelsea game last week, and there were opportunities to impress the Chelsea game, and it didn't happen. I think you have to look at why we signed him as well. I'm not going to knock him. They obviously didn't know what was going to happen with Jamie Jellis, and they signed a utility attacking player, not necessarily a right-sided midfielder or a striker. They signed somebody to fill a couple of gaps just in case Jamie Jellis didn't get a suspended ban. Yeah. And they were playing it safe in what they got. I agree with Phil. I think we need a second out and out striker who can come on for Kanu. I think Matt fills that last 20-minute role for Presley really well. But I don't think we've got an option in terms of a regular kind of getting into the area and getting shots off. We don't seem to have a second option there. I thought Crawley was probably the first time this season when we really missed having another striker on the bench. And Frankie referenced Cheltenham. A change at Cheltenham may well have brought a different result as well. I do think we're a replacement, like for like replacement for Kanu short at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Sorry to jump in. With regard to Matt, go and listen to two things. Listen to WM after the game yesterday's interview with Kanu, where he kind of references how much time Matt has spent with him and how much work Matt has put into him and how much he appreciated it. And go and listen to Not the Top 20 podcast that Matt Sadler did last week, where he talks about why he not just signed Matt to play, but his influence he got on the squad as well. Matt's role is bigger. He's bigger than scoring goals and playing. Matt's role is a father figure, as being a guide to young, inexperienced professionals, and we are a really young and inexperienced team. And whether it be Flynn, Tadama, or Matt, they have a role that is outside of just 3 o'clock till 10 to 5 on a Saturday, and we shouldn't lose sight of that.
Absolutely, I think Evan Weir sort of mentioned Aidan Flint, didn't he? So I think Aidan Flint is making Evan Weir a much better player. I'm probably scared to not listen. I think perhaps it'd be one of those. I think that's very, very valid. He's a much bigger player than just the number 9 shirt. Phil, our midfield, obviously Rico Richards, I think if anybody really thinks he's adding anything, obviously that disagrees with my thoughts. Jake Holman, I think it's fair to say that hasn't worked. We haven't really seen too much from him at the moment. Can you understand why Ronan Mayer's not anywhere near the first team, given that Jamie Jellis is not really sort of hit the heights of last season just yet? I think he will do, but I think
there's a number of things to consider with a lot of those players that you just mentioned. Jake Holman, I think you've got to take the whole package into consideration. The fact that he's come over from Australia, new country, new climate, all of those things will be a factor. I haven't seen much of him in the games that he's played. They obviously saw something in him, because I think to get a player to come over from Australia with all that would involve in terms of work permits and travel and everything, it's a lot harder than bringing somebody from a club in this country. So they obviously saw something in him that they feel that they can work with, and hopefully over time that will develop. Ronan Mayer, I knew you'd bring him up at some point, Simon. Look, I just feel a bit sorry for him, that his lack of opportunities. The one thing I would say is with regard, Rico Richards, who I'm with everything that's been said about him so far. I've not really seen much there to get particularly excited about, and I think it must be quite demoralising for Ronan Mayer to be sitting. If he was watching that game last week, thinking, they've shipped me out on loan and they've brought this guy in instead of me. It must be quite demoralising for him to see that. When he thinking, well, what's this guy got that I haven't got? I'm not sure whether Ronan Mayer is the answer longer term. I know he divides opinion. I know some people think he's better than others. And the bits and pieces I've seen of him, I think there is a talented player there. But whether he quite fits our system or not, I don't know. Matt Sadler obviously doesn't think he's ready yet. Or doesn't fancy him yet. And I'm disappointed in a way that he's been shipped out on loan again, and we've brought other players in to replace him. But I think that kind of says where he is in the pecking order right now. I hope he gets a break at some point soon, but I think it must be very demoralising for Ronan Mayer right now to be out on loan again, and to see some of the players that have come in instead of him and think, well, what have they got that I haven't got?
Well, there's two things I want to sort of just add to that. Matt Sadler said National League and League Two are much of the same. So if that's the case, why have you sent him to League Two, from League Two to National League? But stepping aside from that, Jake Holman, is it possibly because he's got 2 years plus a year, I believe? Is it one of these similar to Evan Weir, where we sort of hold on to him and develop him for 12 months, and then he breaks into the team the season after?
It could well. Sorry,
from what I've seen of Jake Holman, I think maybe a higher level might actually suit him better.
I mean, let's not forget. I mean, going back to Evan Weir, let's not forget we saw very little of Evan Weir in the first half of last season. We had a few appearances here and there. He had a bit of a stinker, didn't he, away at MK when I think he played left wing back and didn't have a great game. And then things changed for him when we played Notts County away on New Year's Day, and he was given his opportunity and he took it really well. Obviously had that phenomenal goal line clearance in the first half, and then he had the assist for Nathan Lowe in the second half, and he had a really good game, and it kind of went from there. So sometimes it just be one good game or one performance that can build a bit of confidence and show what you've got can change things around for a player.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a confidence game. I was screaming for Charlie Lakin to come back into the starting lineup, but he didn't have too great a game yesterday, to be honest. But
really,
it's what you disagree on that?
I thought he ran the second half. Absolutely ran the second half.
Yeah, I think that there's something with Charlie Lakin, I think, where he's a massive loss when we've not got him in the team. But there was at times he sort of lost possession, particularly first half. But I'd still rather have him in there from the start.
It gives us so much balance. So much balance. He's you look at the games that we don't win. You look at the games where we struggle, and he's very rarely starting in those games.
Yeah, we're much better with him. I think my concern remains with our midfield is our inability to really keep the ball. I understand Matt Stadler's style, that he wants us to play more direct and get it up to the front players, and they're training that all the way through the academy. But there are times, for example, this first half against Eastleigh, where we needed to just keep hold of the ball a little bit. And I don't mean passing it round the back three. I mean sort of getting it halfway up the field and then just keeping ball a little bit. Why do you think we can't do that, Phil?
Well, I was just going to say, Sadler actually referenced that in his interview after the game on the BBC yesterday. They said, the question was basically asked, what do you think was wrong in the first half? And Sadler said, we were too eager to go long too soon. We know what our possession stats are. They're not particularly high, and there are times when we certainly need to make more of the possession that we have. But I thought it was interesting that Matt Sadler referenced that yesterday. The fact that he said one of the things that was a problem is that we were undoubtedly surrendering possession too cheaply in the first half. Second half, it was better. We played through midfield more. We got the ball down more, and there was certainly less long balls. And I think the other thing as well is that the quality of the balls forward improved as well. There's a world of difference between knocking a decent ball up to Aaron Presley and just lumping it into an area. And I think too many times in the first half we did just that. We just lumped it forward without any real precision or conviction. So I think the balance of midfield is an interesting talking point. And I think there's probably quite a few players that will agree with that comment at the bottom about Courtney Clark, but perhaps being better as an impact substitute. I totally agree with Daz about Lakin. I think he does give us balance. I think we're better with him in than out. The Warrington or Comley debate is one that we'll have. And if he doesn't start Clark, what does he do on the right? Does he go back to Finnegan? Does he give Jellis more starts? So I think there's discussions to be had there. Yeah,
and of course Finnegan as a CDM, I think he's a tidy player at CDM. I was watching him a bit yesterday, and he was quite clever what he was doing. He was sort of monitoring the player and just waiting for the player to turn, and then displacing him for possession. So it was quite an interesting one. I think, Frankie, the fact that Matt Sadler referenced the not keeping the ball so well and not going too direct too soon, that tells us that Matt Sadler's learning and he's aware of it, and he's going to fix it. Is that right?
I don't know if you can teach a goldfish to learn, but I don't know, because he might learn, but also it's his style of football. So it's great. He's criticizing his own style of football and finally saying this is what we should do. But if we're not watching the training sessions, we're not watching him implement a training session drill where he does it. So we'll stick to his word, and I hope that maybe this season we'll have a game where we have over 50, where we actually have a game where we have more possession. That would be amazing. But I think there is a point that there are times in a game where we just need the ball in that midfield. We need to stop letting the other team just hit the goal so many times and get so far forward. Even last season where it's like Port Vale, just keep the ball in that midfield for a little bit of time. Let the game die down. Let the excitement of the game simmer, and then you can play your longer balls, you can play your deeper balls, you can play the less possession way of playing football and play more direct. But as long as you kind of can see out a storm, because when you have the ball, you can't concede. That's like the main point. And I know it's quite obvious, but with the ball, you can't concede. And sometimes there are points in the game where it's like just keeping the ball would be really, really useful and would save my heart rate.
Same for all of us. Just a couple of comments in there about Ram. It's clear Sadler doesn't fancy him. He's actually on the bench for Tamworth. He had a knock. And in case any of you weren't aware, the game against Chelsea, Ram had picked up 2 yellows in the EFL trophy, so wasn't available to play for that reason. So that's why he didn't get any minutes against them. The bald lad who played yesterday was better than anything we have. Oh, I don't know whether I agree with that. Daz, what do you think? That was Humphries.
Sorry. Don't disagree with Lee very often on here, but no, I thought they were. I wasn't blown away by anybody at Eastleigh. Maybe the number 10, but that was about it.
Yeah, he was trying, wasn't he? He's gone around from Rotherham, wasn't he?
Was he? Okay. I thought, I thought they caused us a few problems early, but once we figured them out, I thought there wasn't a lot that impressed me. Just in terms of possession, by the way, we had nearly 60% possession against Barrow and lost. You know, possession is the biggest myth. You know,
we were Sadler's ranks, weren't we?
Frankie's right. When you've got the ball, the other team can't score. But as we've proved, you only need the ball for 30 of the 90 minutes, and you can win a game.
Yeah, I think it's a consensus from the people on the chat. Clark off the bench is a much stronger, because the start of the game yesterday, Clark was doing really well and then sort of simmered down a bit after the start. So I think definitely Clark coming off the bench is a much better proposition for us, I think.
I think one of the issues yesterday was Clark drifting inside too often and leaving space on the one side. I thought once we stopped that and once we got control of that, the game changed. For me,
we definitely need to see more of Jellis. I think all his troubles are behind him now. I think he's perhaps a goal off being back to his confident best. I think he could do with another Grimsby volley, couldn't he, to get him on sunshine time. There's a comment here from Abandoned Hunter on Warrington. I think Warrington, Conley or Finnegan as CDM. I think from what the Blackpool boss said, Finnegan's likely to be gone in January. So I think we don't need to be relying on him too much in that respect. Warrington, we've signed up long term. I think we need to give him minutes. But Conley does look so much more battle hardened and battle ready. But Warrington's had plenty of games, hasn't he, Phil? To have the year with Salford.
Yeah. I think he's been very mixed so far. I mean, if you take the last 2 home performances, I thought he was very poor in the first half against Bristol Rovers and was rightly taken off at half time. And when Clark and Comley came on in the second half, it did help change the game massively in our favour. But then I actually thought he had a decent sort of 60 minutes or so against Barrow. I didn't think he was too bad in that game. I thought he was much better. I thought he moved the ball a bit quicker. I agree. I've not been blown away by him, but I don't think he's perhaps been as bad as some people have suggested either. I think sometimes as well you can overthink things in football. I think sometimes just go back to what was working. And if you look at our 5-game winning run or whatever it was, 6-game win, when we had that good run and got ourselves top of the league, what was working? What was the starting 11? Who was it that was coming off and who was it that was coming on? And I think maybe Matt Sadler just perhaps go back to that. I know he's had a few players out with injuries, and I know obviously Warrington picked up an injury, didn't he, in the last game. So but I think there's a lot to be said for just start with Warrington, Lakin, maybe Finnegan or perhaps Jellis on the right, and have Comley coming on for the last half an hour to shore things up in midfield. Have Clark coming on off the bench and doing what he does. I think Clark. I mean, I really like Clark. I think he's been a great acquisition, and I think there's a lot more to come from him. But I think at this stage, I think he is better as an impact substitute because he's a bit rogue. I think, as Daz alluded to earlier, positionally he's not the best, and he can go for a little bit of a wander here and there. But I think that's not so bad in the second half as coming on, and I just look at it from the point of view, if you're a player on the pitch for the opposition, what don't you want coming on for the last 20-25 minutes?
Absolutely.
You'd be there. I'll be there as a defender thinking, oh Christ, this busy bastard's coming on. He's going to be everywhere. He's going to be run. He's going to be this. He's going to be all over the place. And I think that's where, at the moment, that's Clark's biggest strength. And I think that's shown in the games that he's come off the bench.
Yeah, he's got that energy. And of course, the teams are fitter now than they've ever been. But 60 minutes into a game, having that kind of energy and strength chasing you down and trying to run through you is I think where his strength is. And he's just learning. He's sort of obviously just coming from National League and from the lower league sort of thing. So he's still got plenty to learn, hasn't he? We want to talk briefly about the two new directorial appointments, but I just want to give you a little cheeky update. I did my first stand-up show last Thursday, and that was an entertaining world in the world of Wolverhampton, and we are looking to do more comedy shows. So watch this space. We might be doing one in the locker before too long. In my members area, I'll be sort of putting some clips up from that, so if people want to have a glance at that. But we move on. Mark Koretsky, strategic growth and operational improvement, formerly worked with the NFL in America, and at Barton Lee, a legal corporate strategic addition. Initial thoughts on those, Daz?
They're both very American names, aren't they, Mark Koretsky and Barton Lee? You're kind of, I knew they hadn't come from Wednesbury, I have to say. I don't know, mate. The Trevella have obviously pulled a couple of bodies in from within their organisation. I'm sure they've brought them in for very good reasons. Nothing really to contribute other than they need to get some battered chips in them, and they'll understand us a bit better.
Phil, anything you want to add to that? Especially
not really. I think Trevella obviously have this model that they want to work with. They've brought in quite a few additional members of staff behind the scenes to get things working as they want. But we'll see. We'll see what impact it has.
It would be nice if we were getting League One ready, wouldn't it? That would be nice. The assistant interim manager, Frankie. Any whispers? Any whispers? Is that going to happen, or is Jammer going to get it?
I do hope someone gets the job. I do. Bit annoying that he went to Luton, but he made. If I was him, I'd sod off Warsaw. But there's not a I don't know why he goes to Luton. Probably just because he wants to live in London or whatever. I wouldn't turn up the home games. I think we do need one. But you have to, because Waddig will be coming back soon. Hopefully his toe surgery is it's done already, and he's just soon to be healed or whatever.
Yeah,
it'd be nice. It'd be nice to get one. It'd be nice to hear we have one. But if we don't, we'll probably just put down. Or we could just put down Byfield up there and try and get someone from the academy and put them as the academy player, and then you see Byfield in a higher position and see if he's ready. If Sadler leaves, to see if Byfield is anywhere close to it. It could be an idea to just test Byfield to see if he's a decent backup, because he seems to be talking in his ear. Or we we go back to what Sadler had at the beginning when he first joined, when he didn't have Waddock, and we bring because we know he's at the club.
Yeah. I suppose the moving parts. I think the connections for somebody. Bear in mind, we're sort of getting close to the January transfer window. Bringing in an assistant manager who's got knowledge and contacts that can help us get players in January to strengthen our attack, especially. So that's where I think we need that guy to sort of step in. Got a comment here from Lee Plant. Clark, Flint, Weir, Carnu, Harper and Barrett all been very good for us so far this season. Phil, it's pretty much a new team and it's come together so quickly. Can it stay together and ride the rough patches? That's the question.
That's the $6 million question. Hopefully. Yeah, they have gelled quite quickly. It was quite a big rebuild in the end, and I think some of the players that have come in have done better than others. But I think the squad, I still think there's areas that we need to look to strengthen. I think of those players that are mentioned there, I think we could potentially have a problem keeping Connor Barrett in January. I think he is playing very well at the moment. Not so good yesterday. He had one of his one of those sloppier days yesterday. But on the whole, I think he's been very good this season. I think he's improved defensively as well, and there's been examples of that in some games where his defensive work has been very good. But yeah. I think what sets him apart from some of the others is he's got the physicality, he's got the pace to play at a higher level. What's he got? 1.5 years left on his contract come January. Yeah. I think if somebody comes in with a decent offer for Connor Barrett in January, we could have a problem there. I think that's one of the reasons why Akeke is at the club as well. So you've got a bit of extra backup in that area. But I think, yeah, I agree. I've been pleasantly surprised at how well they've gelled and how well we started the season. We spoke in one of the first fan chats, didn't we, about how we needed to start the season well. And we've done that. Yeah, we're top of the league. Okay, recent form's been a little bit iffy, but we're top of the league, and there's plenty there to build on.
Yeah. Any concern with Miles Roberts, Frankie?
I don't think there's that many concern. He made that one mistake for some reason. BBC was comparing it to the one where their goalie literally threw it at Carnu, but I think he's made maybe a handful of mistakes, but I honestly think he's had his start against MK Dons is better. His distribution is the same as every single goalkeeper we have, where some days it looks perfect and one kick's perfect, the next kick is like wayward and outside the goal. Another keeper we always have a reactionary keeper he's always good reactionary, and he is one of the keepers best in the league, one of the best keepers in the league. We always have to remember Simkin at this time was also not perfect. He made the mistake at Grimsby where he let the ball go in when he kicked it wider. Simkin was not perfect to start off with. Roberts hasn't had to do much. If you look, Roberts has probably had to do a little bit more than Simkin, because Simkin for some reason had no shots at him at the start of the season. And by the end of the season, Simkin was really good. I hope Roberts is but he's a bit older, a bit more experienced. He just gets down. He makes the better saves, I think, sometimes. And it might be harsh to say, but so far, I think Roberts might have had a better start than Simkin. Referring to he's had more to do with than Simkin. So let's hope he ends the season and he gets better and better as it goes.
Yeah. And what do you think that does? Roberts, is he an upgrade on Simkin? He's got 3 years experience on him.
I just read one of the contributors just said that they were worried about him, and yesterday I haven't seen the replay yet of the chance that Flint cleared off the line, so I don't know if it was a Roberts error or not. But I thought he played really well yesterday. I thought he made a number of good saves. First off, the one he pushed onto the bar was a top save. Yeah, and it's a different game. It's a different game then. Is he an upgrade on Simkin? Probably. probably, if we're being honest. He's not Rushworth, but there aren't going to be many that are. There are Rushworth.
I think
I go back to
the save he made. Yeah, the save he made when Rico lost possession. I think Jamie Jellish put Rico Brown in trouble and he lost possession. That save at the near post, that was a real key save. Yeah. That was a real key save.
He made one at one each at Crawley, won us a point there. I just looking, can I see a promoted team, a team getting promoted with Roberts in goal? Yes, I can. Could I see a team, dig one from the past, could I see a team getting promoted with Liam Roberts in goal? No, I couldn't, you know. So Roberts, I think if I was going to improve what we've got, it wouldn't be, goalkeeper wouldn't be the first, second or third place I was looking to improve.
No, I quite agree there. Just going to Phil, Harrison Burke, I think we've missed him. Sadler said, we'll be ready for Saturday. We'll be ready for Saturday. And then in the last report, he says, he's done some running. So is that a bit of a smoke screen for a more serious injury? Because I think Harrison Burke was a really good, solid part of the team. Rico Brown, at times, a little bit getting us exposed a little bit, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on Harrison Burke. I think he's done outstandingly well, considering, you know, it's another player. We're talking about another player in his first year of Football League football. I think he's done very well. And I think that the back three of Burke, Weir and Flint is as good as anything in the league, if not better. I really do think he's stepped up to the plate very, very well. And yeah, I think we have missed him a little bit in recent games. I don't know about whether it was a smoke screen necessarily. I think he said that the report that I saw last week, I think Sadler said he was in contention for the weekend. I may have misheard that. I don't think he said he was fully fit. I think he said he was in contention and sort of fighting to be fit for the weekend. They obviously didn't feel it was worth the risk, and only he and the medical staff will know that. Yeah, I think Rico Brown's done okay, but yeah, he has a few sleepy moments, and the one that you just referenced there, where he overdwelt on the ball and should have cleared it and lost possession and let the Eastleigh player in the second half. He does that. He's prone to a few moments like that. But on the whole, I think he's done okay. But I would certainly bring Harrison Burke back in when he's fit. Yeah,
I think Rico Brown, you wouldn't want to swap him for David Kagbu, would you?
Well, look, let's not worry about him. He's gone now, isn't he? He's you know, we've got what we've got, and I prefer to talk about, you know, what we have got than what we had.
I'll tell you, there's one player I think we ought to mention. Stan Straw came on against Chelsea again. Stan Straw, what a talent he is. He's doing really well, isn't he? Frankie, do you see him?
Yeah. The thing is, he seems to be only a young player that Sadler actually looks like he likes. Funny enough, he's a defender. So I don't know why Sadler just... anyone that looks attacking, he doesn't like. So and that might be one big problem I think I have with Sadler. And we'll go on to another point, but it's his problem with the youth players. So you play Sam Straw a lot, and I agree completely. Straw should be playing a lot more. He looks like a very, very good player he looks like a very good centre back, and he looks like he's like a future Aidan Flint. Let's put that to the side. But I think there are players who he is the midfielders he likes to sometimes play. But he doesn't play. I'm surprised he hasn't played. He hasn't played Mayer. He should play Mayer more. Another young player that could have come in, or he should have played Rag. And I'm surprised Rags only had one appearance in that competition.
Yeah, I think Charlie Rags had an injury. I think that's slowed him up. There was a reference. Roof was training with the club, and we were wondering whether he was going to be the experienced striker to sort of provide cover for Daniel Carnu. But I'm not sure whether anybody else has heard anything, but it doesn't seem to be moving anywhere quickly. Anybody got anything to add on that?
I was going to say, he doesn't look like a good player. In my opinion, he hasn't played enough football. We might just be signing someone. We might sign him also. Might sign him and he'd be really crap because he didn't get any game time at Derby. He hasn't had really.
Yeah, he hasn't played many minutes, has he? He hasn't played many minutes. The other one to throw in there that Abandoned Hunters put on there. Another one for Phil. Priestley Farquharson. Is that a player that we think we should manage minutes and keep as cover for Aidan Flint? Or do you think he should be getting more minutes?
Yes, to the first bit. And I think that's probably what Sadler sees his role as being now as well. I think it's interesting that when Harrison Burke was injured, that he kept Farquharson on the bench and played and brought Rico Brown back in. I think he's Priestley Farquharson as somebody to come off the bench if needed for the last half an hour or so to shore things up, which I think he's done very well on lots of occasions. You've got to bear in mind that obviously we know about his injury record, and I think Matt Sadler will be very cautious in the way that he uses him. But I think that's what that's probably why he's given him another contract. I think that's probably what he sees his role as, being an experienced centre half, a good centre half on the bench who can come on when he's needed to. And probably, hopefully, nothing will happen to Aidan Flint. But if he does get injured, Priestley will probably come into the middle of the back three. But I think he'll be used sparingly, and hopefully we'll get a full season out of him in that role.
I think because over the last few years, the Priest hasn't had that much football. If he can get through the whole of this season without an injury, maybe he'll be able to step on from there.
Has anybody watched the podcast with him?
I saw some clips of it, but I haven't seen all of it. The clip I saw was about he played in Champions League.
Yeah, but it's when he was in Wales. It's worth a listen. I thought it was really interesting because he talks a lot about obviously the injuries that he's had and the struggles that he's had to come back from some long-term injuries. And it was interesting when he was talking about when he was at Newport, and he actually said that for the second half of the season, where he played pretty much every game for them, that he wasn't training. He was basically playing and then being rested and recuperated and then playing again the following week. And he's talked about how he's when he first came to Walsall and he went back into full-time training, that he had problems adjusting to that. I'd say it's worth a listen. I thought it was really interesting, and he shed some light on some of the problems that he's had. But I think Matt Sadler sees him as, we'll keep him on the bench, we'll bring him on when we need to, and we'll try and keep him as fit for as long as possible to fulfil that role when he's needed.
Yeah. I'm going to Daz for this one. Thoughts on Aaron Pressley, Elvis?
Can't say enough good things about him. I've been really impressed. Mobility is so much more than we had in the second half of last season. Probably when Matt was fit as well. Presley's more mobile. I'm pleased he scored a couple of goals a couple of weeks ago. He kind of, we shouldn't, I've said it a million times already, we shouldn't judge him on how many goals he scores. We should judge him on his overall contribution. And, I think he's been a really successful signing. I think he makes players around him better. And I'm really happy with him, I have to say.
You say that on don't judge him on his goals, but 4 goals in 12 is not a bad return. If he gets 16 for the season, we'll be happy.
Yeah, if he hadn't got those 2 against Bristol Rovers, we'd be talking about 2 in 12, though, wouldn't we? And then there was a time before Bristol Rovers where I thought, we're going to go down Josh Gordon territory here. And I'm one of the few that thought Josh Gordon bought more than just goals. and I didn't want to go that way. And I think Presley brings a lot more to the team. He's asked to do a similar job that Josh Gordon was asked to do, and I was praying we didn't get to 20 games and 2 goals. The fact that he's got 4 in 12, great. He's not going to score 30 goals. Let's be honest. But we're a better team 40 minutes than out of it.
Yeah, that's it. It's about the whole package, isn't it? People were screaming for Danny Johnson, but it was the overall contribution of players is what makes it. We're running short of time. Frankie's yawning. We must be getting near the end. I've just got a comment here. Can you share one of your jokes from the other night, please? Well, it was an adult show, so I'm sort of quite limited. My final plug of the evening. For those who are interested in writing a book, I've got a show next Thursday this Thursday coming in Wolverhampton. So if you can get there and support me, that would be really good. And that is how to write a book. So it's sharing my experience of book writing and giving advice to would-be authors and that sort of stuff. So that's that. Well, let me think of a joke I could share. Hang on. During my dating time, which is quite a while ago, I went with the classic line with this girl: "Your place or mine," and she replied, "Can we do both? You go to yours, I'll go to mine."
Good line.
That's about as safe as I could go with that. I can't sort of go too crazy on this. But yeah, as I say, on the members channel, I will be putting some bits on there. But hopefully, we'll be sort of doing some more events. The stand-up training is coming on, so yeah, hopefully going to do some more events locally. And I've talked to Water already, the possibility of putting a stand-up show on. So that is something that's got potential to happen as well. Right then, so can Walsall push on from here, Phil? How confident are you feeling about going into January still top of the window, top of the tree?
Still not sure, but I've been, as I said earlier on, I've been pleasantly surprised with how well we've started the season. I think there's, it is a work in progress. It's always going to be with so many new players, but I think there's some positive signs, definitely. Could do with a win on Saturday. We don't want to go too many games without winning in the league. We don't want to go 4 games without winning in the league, and we don't want to drop points against another team that's down the bottom of the league. Because that was one of the issues that we had last season. So we could do with getting out of that little mini rut that we're in at the moment. But yeah, onwards and upwards. I'm pretty confident right now, and I'm hoping that we've got enough to sustain it. But we do need to, as I say, a few people mentioned it in comments earlier on, we cannot make, regardless of what position we're in January, we can't afford to make the same mistakes as we did last January. We need to be better going forward.
Okay. Frankie, what do you think? Same?
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's all down to January. As long as we have a good January window, as long as we come out the window looking like as a either better side, or as Ben Sadler said, a better side, or the same side as before, we will fingers crossed see a P-next side name, or at the least be in the playoffs, and that gives us a good chance to get promoted. And hopefully this is our season, but it all comes down to that January transfer window, as it did last season, like it was this season. It's not a hard like division to get out of. It's actually probably even worse than it was last season. So eventually we're going to have to do it. If we're going to have to do it, because if there's only one way to move up, improve each season, that's going to finish with 3rd. So hopefully, but it's
fingers crossed.
Yeah, too early to. After January, we could give you a much better knowledge of if we are going up or not.
Daz, final words from Daz.
Big 6 weeks coming up: Newport, Colchester, Harrogate, Bromley,
indeed.
Gateshead, Oldham, and Shrewsbury. I think Bromley are the highest placed team will play, who are in 11th at the moment. Opportunity to get in the third round of the FA Cup, opportunity to nudge Shrewsbury a little bit closer to the non-league, an opportunity to win some games against teams that are a little lower in the division. If we're all smiling in 6 weeks, we'll be in a good place.
Yeah. Just for my match preview for Newport, I'll be going through the stats of Newport are actually in better form than us, so they'll go in as favourites, and that's the way I like to stir it up, and then we're more likely to do the business, I think. But yeah, as far as the January transfer window, in a good place going into that, and signing League One players rather than National League players is what we need to do. Show that we're ready for League One to get the job done.
Just on the not the top 20 podcast, Sadler did this. He didn't actually reference in name last January, but it was pretty clear in what he said. You know, they didn't get who they wanted in January last year. That's obvious, but that's the first time I've ever heard anybody kind of allude to it.
Yeah, admitting it didn't all go well. Right then, good one, guys. Thanks for coming on. It's been a good show, and see you all very soon. I'm aiming to get to Newport. That's my challenge. So hopefully see you there. Nice one. Wolfsfan TV, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe. Join the members page for a little bit of extra content. And if you can get down to my writing discussion on Thursday, that would be really good. Thanks for watching. Cheers, boys.